On this very special episode, we get to chat with Theresa DeMatteo, the new Professional Development Coordinator at Nassau BOCES. Tune in as Theresa discusses how she balanced her work and home life while still being in our administration program. Theresa also touches on tips and skills future students should consider. For more information on our administration program, please email diane@siteprograms.com. Theresa, you could just start off by introducing yourself and letting us know how you heard about our program.
My name is Theresa DeMatteo. I started the program in January of 21, I believe. It was in the middle of the pandemic. So to me, all those years are all 1 year. So I started then, and I did the full 18-month program. So I went through and finished the SDL as well. It's kind of, I guess, interesting as to why I started the program, because back in the day, I used to feel like, yeah, I'm going to go through and get my admin license at some point, blah, blah, blah. I was always motivated, but to be honest, what I had seen occurring in a lot of the principals and assistant principals' lives over the years kind of turned me off from wanting to pursue that any further, because I felt like, they just didn't have a good work-life balance, and they were really stressed all the time. And I was like, that's just not something I am interested in doing. I'm just going to live my life as a teacher and call it a day. But then I transitioned from the classroom into technology integration at my school that I currently was in New York City. So that kind of gave me a little motivation, a little fire, just because I was so into it, and I really loved helping and supporting not just the students, but also the admin and teachers and any staff when it came to technology integration. Then I realized that in order to move up in that realm, the only next step would be for me to get my admin license and be able to become something like a director of technology, or, something along those lines, and be able to get a district or central office position when it came to technology. So a few of the coworkers that I worked with in my New York City school had attended the site program, have always ranted and raved about it. And when I say a few, I want to say a good 5 had attended and went through the program, and, always said it was super manageable, definitely easy to do, because I had 2 children, and I was like, I can't take away from them and miss things for them. And they were like, no, you really can do it all. It'll be okay. When the pandemic hit was when Site started to offer their program remote. And I was like, if I'm going to do it, this is my chance. So let's get it done. And that's what made me sign up. And I started, like I said, in January, and went through the whole 18 months.
There are some teachers that don't even know that there's even tech, administration is considered tech. So, speak about the different categories that, fall under the umbrella of admin, and what it means to be an administrator.
I guess I would say, as far as the umbrella of what was under an administrator, I don't know if it's a New York City thing, but in the city schools, you don't really realize there's this bigger world out there in education, because you're kind of siloed in your building, and district central people are kind of outside of that. Whereas on Long Island, district central people are kind of in and out of the school building. So you kind of have an understanding about that a little bit more. But when I started going through the site kind of application process, I realized that there was other outlets for administration. You don't just become an administrator, which aka means a principal or an assistant principal, right? Or a superintendent. There's so many other facets in between that can really pull on your strengths. And when I realized that my strength is, ed tech and anything around technology usage, supporting professional development and helping teachers, staff, everybody using technology, I was looking at what kind of role that means. Where does that mean for me? And I realized that out on Long Island, especially, they have roles that are called director of technology, director of instructional technology. There's all different names, but it is a district office position. So I was super motivated because of that. And I knew that would be my path. When I signed up for Site and we started to go through the classes, I did realize that a lot of the classes are really geared towards people who do want to be more in the building principal, assistant principal kind of roles. So more of the SBL But I thought it was great that there was, I think maybe one or two of us that really were like, no, that's kind of not our path. So when we had to do papers and answer questions, we would always ask the professors, like, is it okay if we gear our answers more towards what we wanted to do, as opposed to just keeping it that typical, be a principal or assistant principal role, because that's not really what we're looking to do. And all the professors were really welcoming around that. And it was really great because it helped me to learn more about the role I want to get into, as opposed to doing papers and things on things that didn't mean anything to me. So that was the path. And then, we learned about all the other director type positions, right? Director of special ed, director of ELA, director of math. I mean, it depends on the district, obviously, but you really can find these administrative level positions that are not necessarily a principal or assistant principal, that really hone in on your exact skills and what you know so well from maybe being in the classroom for so long. So it was really great and super, super motivating.
Absolutely. That is so true. And
Yeah.
this next question is going to be a two-parter. What is one thing that you feel like you learned about yourself while going through the program? You also did it through the pandemic. It takes a lot of tenacity and, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing you learned about yourself during the program? And what is one thing that you would say that you learned during the program that you use in your current role today?
One thing I learned about myself during the program is there's literally nothing I can't do. I am a definite multitasker. If I didn't know that before, I 100% know that now. I'm able to make dinner and feed my kids while typing a paper all at the same time. It all gets done and everybody's okay. But I also learned about myself that is okay, that I could teach my kids that hard work and getting through a lot at once is also okay. We could do it all. Why not? Who's telling us we can't? So I think that was kind of a twofold type thing that I learned about myself, and also was able to teach my own children. A lot of the professors, especially my favorite ones, spoke about, communication and the communication tools, and how to listen for understanding and not just listen just to say you're listening. And they did talk a lot about that and how that kind of plays in a role of being an administrator. So that was definitely something I learned.
And I know that you did speak a little bit about balancing that work and home life. What was that like?
I would say key is being organized, not leaving things to the last minute. The professors were really good about giving you a good amount of time to get assignments completed and done. So you're not, struggling at the last second to complete a potentially large paper. They really did give us a lot of time, and a lot of the professors even allowed us time within the day during the class time to get started, to work with our groups and to really start to build those assignments. So outside of that, just being organized and kind of saying to yourself, creating a schedule, which again is also another great kind of tip on how to be an administrator, and a good one of sorts, is to be organized and to make sure you're on top of everything and scheduled. So this way you do get it all in and you don't forget something. So I think that's really, that was key for me. Also divide and conquer. I was blessed and lucky enough to really have a good cohort. So we were all super supportive of each other. And it was like, okay, we have all these reading assignments to get done. You do this, you do this, you do this, and let's share, right? So it worked out really well. And I guess in the beginning, I was scared if that was even going to be something that everyone would want to do. But once you start to break down that wall of kind of nervousness, or like, who are you? And you meet each other and you just start talking, everybody feels the same way. Everybody feels overwhelmed. Everybody feels like it's a lot. So if you kind of break that wall down and say, hey, who wants to share? Who wants to help each other out? Everybody usually is really cool. And I had a great experience throughout the whole program with that. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, and you kind of already answered this, to be quite honest, let's say somebody's joining the program tomorrow. What's one thing that you think that they need to know?
I think the one thing I would say is for sure to be committed to the decision. I don't think going into it wishy-washy, that you're going to be successful in it, because you have to be committed to the fact that you are in college again. Like, this is work. It is a commitment. But it is so doable, and there is an end at the end of the tunnel. The end is near, or whatever kind of analogy you want to use. And if you go in it with that mindset, you really will fight through it and get through it, and you do learn a ton. It's a crazy amount of information at once, but you just learn so much, and it kind of gives you perspective on things that go on in school districts outside of what you think. As teachers, sometimes we're siloed, and we're inside a classroom and we're complaining about administrators, like, how can they do this? How can they tell us that? How can they say this? Blah, 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 right? But now, this program allowed us to see things from the other side and say, oh, that's why they did that. It kind of opened up the wall a little bit. But yeah, I think my biggest advice would just go into it being committed to fully do it and complete it, because it is a commitment.
Being committed is one of the best tips, to be quite honest. Being committed and disciplined really will make you go all the way through,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Theresa, for this very special and informative episode. And for more information on our administration program, please visit www.stroseapply.com or email Diane@siteprograms.com. And for everything site, please follow us on all social media platforms at Site Programs, CITEPROGRAMS.